We're the owners here at the Gem. We're so psyched that you're here. Before we start, I just want to go down a quick list of things we have coming up in the next week or two and point to some people in the audience who have not prepped for this to just talk briefly about what we got going on. So first thing, tomorrow night we've got Tim Lacconi leading up the Faith and Film series here at the Gem.
Yes, the Faith and Film series is a series of movies that have to do with issues of faith and spirituality. And we come at those the films from a non-denominational, multi-faith perspective. So the discussion is all very much it's open and building bridges between faiths. And the movie tomorrow night is a movie called Come Sunday. And this is actually a brand new movie. It's coming out tomorrow. So I haven't seen it, but it's very, very interesting topic having to do with, I believe, a Pentecostal minister in the South or Texas who basically comes to church on a Sunday morning and lets people know that he does not believe in hell anymore. So it's very, very interesting. And we'll have the film at 7, and then we will have a discussion following it. So I hope you can join us for that.
Great. Beth and I got to see the film at Sundance. It's a phenomenal film. So then next Thursday night, right, we've got Scott Vaughn from the Center for Ecology-Based Economy is going to do a presentation here on community solar.
That is correct, and we're going to also talk about electric vehicle charging infrastructure. A project that we're doing in the area, and we're installing 2 electric vehicle chargers out here. So come next Thursday and learn about our community solar farm. We're looking for subscribers and host sites, and we're also going to talk a little bit about electric cars and electric charging.
Right. Next Sunday, we have an event with the Earth Day event with a local, or the 22nd. It's with the Local Food Connection. Anyone here from the Local Food Connection? All right, well, stay tuned on details from that. Then Monday night, we have a Meet the Candidate event. I saw Sarah Schifrin. Want to give a few quick words about Lucas St. Clair?
Yeah, Lucas, it was great to see all the heart and soul quotations taken from interviews about what makes Bethel and the Tri-County Town area really special. And I think it's a responsible part of citizenship to come meet the candidate. You know, what do we need Lucas to know about Western Maine as perhaps he becomes one of the people that will represent us in Washington, D.C.? It will be potluck, and if you have small children, we'll be showing the photography film as well. So it's a great time for them to see another part of Maine, and it's an opportunity for you to ask him questions, get to know him as a person. He attended Gould. He was a good English student, I can attest. And Bethel is a very special area to him, so it's a good time for us to let him know what we really care about.
When's that?
It is Monday, the 23rd, 5:30-ish, I think.
That's all right. Yeah.
Check the Gem Facebook page.
There we go. Then the 25th, which is a Wednesday night, we're doing a poetry festival with the Eddy School. Friday the 27th, there's going to be a film called I Am 11, which we're co-hosting with the local Girl Scout troop, which is kind of a broad survey of what it means to be 11 years old across the world. All the proceeds from that event, it's a suggested donation of $5. All proceeds are going directly to the charity Water. And then on the 28th, we're doing this phenomenal film called Loving Vincent as part of our Exhibitions on Screen program. We're partnering with BAM, Bethel Area Arts and Music. There will be wine tasting. We're going to be doing French wine out in the lobby. We're going to be doing pizza made with Anasisco Spring Pesto and some other goodies. And that's it. There's a whole lot going on in the next couple of weeks. I think everyone came out of hibernation at exactly the same time. So without further ado, I'm very excited for this evening. I'm going to introduce our MC, Justin Robinson.
Thank you, Wade. Friends and neighbors, welcome one and all to our first ever Bethel celebration of storytelling. Tonight we are going to be sharing stories of kindness. This evening is the result of a more or less accidental collaboration between myself and several other people, Reverend Tim Laconi, the West Parish Church, Kat Ingraham of Mahoosic Heart and Soul, Amy Scott of Bethel Area Nonprofit Collaborative. So all of us kind of came together more or less kind of by accident with these sort of different intentions and ideas, but what we had in common were about 3 major intentions for making this event tonight. And the first was bridging the various social divides in our community. I know we've all been hearing about how our country is more divided than ever, and maybe this has to do with social media algorithms that show us what we like more than maybe what we need to see and hear. And it's even before all that though, it takes less energy to spend time with people who agree with you and who see things the way you do. So we figured a way that we can bridge these divides is by listening to each other. And Amy Scott recently co-authored an essay that's all about this speaker's series she did called Trying on the Boots. So we could maybe like post that somewhere because it's an excellent essay. And it's all about respecting differences to transcend them, essentially. So, our second intention was to celebrate the art of storytelling. It is a uniquely human art, and our species has practiced it since we've been talking. It's the way we share wisdom of experience, we elucidate, we educate, and we entertain each other with stories. And I believe that it's an art that's worth practicing. And a lot of my inspiration for this came from the Moth radio program, which celebrates storytelling. It's a group of writers who go to different communities and put on these storytelling events, much like we're doing tonight. And the stories are told by regular people, but they're always, it's mind-boggling how beautiful and funny and tragic and unbelievable these stories are. They're always engrossing and inspiring. And I've always thought, the more I meet all the characters in our community, I've always thought, you know, these people have some excellent stories. So that idea kind of crossed paths with Tim and Kat, who were intending to celebrate kindness. The golden rule, as we all know, is present in almost every single world religion, the idea of treating others the way you want to be treated. And I think that maybe if we listen to folks with different perspectives, that's understanding is the root of compassion that we can practice. How do we foster that? What makes kindness so important? These are questions that maybe you guys can chew on throughout the rest of the night. So those are our 3 intentions. So more Americans fear public speaking than they do death. So with that in mind, I would like to outline some suggestions for you folks as an audience to help our speakers feel a little more comfortable. The first is to be a supportive audience, all right? If you brought some rotten tomatoes with you, I would recommend you find something more creative to do with them. Warm, encouraging, enthusiastic rounds of applause before and after usually help people feel a lot more comfortable, so go for it. And then my other suggestion for you as an audience would be to be here and be attentive. If you've got some really important business on your cell phone, maybe you can save that for later. So, does that all sound good to everybody? All right, well, without any further ado, as we like to say, I would like to bring up our first storyteller. This is Jane Chandler. She's active in the West Parish Congregational Church, in the Mahoosic Community Band, in the Mahoosic Land Trust, the Age-Friendly Community Initiative, and the Woodstock Conservation Commission. She is a working nurse, cut down to per diem apparently, at the Androscoggin Home Care and Hospice, and the proud grandmother of 3 young children. So please give it up for Jane Chandler.
It is a little daunting starting with the storytelling, but I will do my best. When I heard the topic was kindness, I said, I can tell stories of kindness. I see it every single day. I know the people in Bethel and the surrounding area. I go into the IGA and oh my gosh, it takes forever to buy one little dozen eggs because everybody wants to hug me, talk to me, tell me their stories of grief or healing or love. I'm a nurse and I'm going to tell stories of nursing today. I've worked with Androscoggin Home Health as a nurse in this area for approximately 22 years. I could retire, I'm old enough to retire, but you know I don't, I haven't yet. I've gone per diem, partly because I like the kindness of the people where I go. I want to share their stories today. And you know as well as I do all the rules about can't tell this and can't tell that, and I promise I'm not going to reveal any private information, confidentiality. So, my people all exist, but they are Alice, Bob, Charlie, Denise. A, B, C, and D. And trust me, these are real people, even though I have to use a different name. Alice. Alice is a 24-hour caretaker of her husband, David, who's lost his memory. He doesn't even know who she is, but he knows she's a nice person. And it's sad. Family members take turns sitting with David because he can't be left alone. He can't be trusted. We see him in the home and we try to keep him as healthy as we can. Sometimes Alice is exhausted, but she never stops smiling. She's so appreciative of everything that's done. And she says, I married him for better or for worse, in sickness or in health. And that's what I meant. Her vows of marriage are strong and deep. Neighbors to come in and sit with David, give Alice a needed break. Some of her church friends wonder why she hasn't been in church, so they give her a call or they go to visit. And then they realize she needs a little more. She needs love, support, kindness, with no expectations of giving it back. That's what compassion's all about, giving but not expecting it in return. Supper, food, helping with the housework or the dishes. Alice is so thankful for everybody in this community that's helped her so that she can keep her husband at home as long as possible. So I call that my person of love. My next person is the person of hope. This is Bob. Bob was a logger, has worked in the woods all his life, and has done a really good job, and he's got a wife and he's got 3 young children. And all of a sudden, well, he does smoke, by the way, and I'm not saying anything about smoking, but he has lung cancer. And lung cancer is kind of pretty severe for him. It was progressive, and he didn't get the cough checked out right away. Oh well. But he's the breadwinner, and now his calendar is filled with doctor's appointments, medical appointments. Do this, do that, do this. And, he's tied to the calendar. And because of that, his wife, who does home care in the home, personal care assistant, she has to stop working to take care of him. There's no money. Neighbors have stepped in. The teachers at Crescent Park have, with the help of the district exchange and the food pantry, quietly put food in the kids' backpacks to take home for the weekends, to make sure that those kids have food and that the family has food, when other students aren't necessarily aware that it's happening. People stop in all the time to help him out, and sometimes there's a donation of food a donation of money along with the card that gives him cheers. He tears up when he talks about his Bethel community and what it means to him to live here and to know that he belongs here. That's my story on hope. Charlie, see. Charlie, I'm going to call this section care. Charlie's a local farmer, but he was injured on the job. Farming's hard work, and any of you who've done any farming know that. You don't just stop because you feel like taking a break. Some people say Charlie's stubborn. Well, yeah, he's a proud individual. He's a Maine farmer. Some people called him the Energizer Bunny, but all of a sudden the Energizer Bunny had to stop for a bit. You know what happens. Well, guess what? The cows got milked. He didn't milk them, but people who are around this area stepped up, milked the cows. They went in and they mucked out the stalls. They did the haying to make sure the hay got in. They stacked the wood, brought wood in. This guy, who's never asked for help in his entire life, couldn't believe it. He said, you know, we really do see it. We take care of each other. That's the beauty of my town. And D is Denise. And I don't have a title on this one. You'll know Denise, even though you don't know Denise. Denise is one of the young lives that was taken too soon from our towns. Leukemia, cancer of the bone, tragic car accidents, young people at Telstar and Crescent Park and Woodstock. These kids really, really struggle through their illness. Denise did not like all the pokes and prods and all the trips that she had to go for all the doctor appointments, or the side effects of the chemo. It's an adult, you can understand, but a kid, it's so sad to see them feeling awful. But she understood, even her young age, the importance of following through. High schoolers wore hats. When they're not supposed to wear hats, are they? But when she lost her hair, they could wear hats. They sponsored benefit dances for Denise who liked to dance. One Crescent Park little girl actually said, I don't want anything for my birthday this year, Daddy. I want all my presents to go to Denise. Pictures and cards kept flooding in, decorating much more than the refrigerator. Go for gold for childhood cancer. Hit the streets of Bethel, literally, with a parade, floats, music, face painting, kids' games. You all were there or heard about it. The love that was all around us. Yeah, these are a few examples. This is the love and kindness I see in this community. It takes only a minute for us to put a smile on our face and say hello and listen. Take that time to listen. Kindness goes a long way. We have our differences, yeah, but we have something stronger than that. We all live in Bethel, in the Bethel area, and we all care for each other if we take the time to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. All right, our next speaker is another fellow musician. I kind of asked everybody to send me a little bit of information about them so I could introduce them properly. And of all, Drexel's was probably my favorite. He has described himself as a living enthusiast, community singer and musician, a compulsive gardener, a husband, father of 2, custodian of 9 acres in Oxford, Maine, a practicing physician out of Bridgeton, an aspiring sacred ecologist and gardener sage. This is his personal his debut as a public storyteller. So please give a warm welcome to Drexel.
Is this working? Got some sound here? Okay. I have to go on this side, I guess. So, 2 weeks ago, we'll get this in the right place here in a minute. 2 weeks ago, at Norway Community Sing, there I got to plug in, Justin was announcing this event, and oh, by the way, he said, the theme is kindness. At the mention of the word kindness, my heart leaped forward and said, yes, yes, I have a story to tell. You do? My mind was completely taken off guard by this. So I started thinking, well then, what we need to do is we need to figure out what words the word kind will fit inside of. Kinder, kindest, kindness. See how that works? Now, in the face of such logical approach to story writing, my mind, my heart faltered. And my mind jumped at the chance. But the heart was thinking, is this story. This is about my kindness to someone else, isn't it? What am I going to do? Stand in front of an audience and, oh, tell them what a nice guy I was? That won't work. So, relieved by my heart's momentary indecision, my mind went back to thinking, maybe I can get ahead of the game here. I'm going to think of more words with kind inside of them. Okay. Humankind. Wonderkind. Oh, wunderkind, right? Kindergarten. Those last two words of Germanic origin, meaning children or child. Hey, I was on to something now. I'm going to the dictionary and looking for some more ideas. You're starting to get the idea. My mind was not coming up with a story of its own. But still, doggedly moved ahead. Let's see, we'll do prefixes and suffixes, so that could be kindly and kindling and kindred. Oh, he's getting really on to it. I got on a roll now. Try as we might, Hart's story would not leave. So grudgingly, my mind agreed to sit with this and let memory unfold and see what would result. Just where was this going? So now, relegated to the role of scribe, he rather mindlessly started recording whatever Hart would say. Well, as this process moved on, I started to realize this is really more, this is more a story not about a kindness given, but a kindness, well, about a challenge to be kind. A challenge to be kind. It's a very special kind of kindness. Well, the bestower of this kindness was a gentleman, late 40s, early 50s, suffering already from Parkinson's disease, early stages, when he was out on a bicycle ride, and not as good as bad as he had been, took a tumble, put his arm out, broke his arm, broke his neck, crushed his spinal cord below C5, and was instantly a quadriplegic. That's someone who no longer has use of their upper or lower extremities. Now, I came to meet this gentleman at the rehabilitation center where I work, and he was here now after his acute hospitalization for his injuries. And we began a long relationship, and the nurses, the therapists, all of us working together to try to make this life a little more comfortable. Heck, just to manage day to day. Let me sketch you a quick picture. The gentleman cannot really breathe laying flat, so he has to be reclining at 30, 45 degrees, something like that. And he's got hardware and things and bracing, holding his neck absolutely still, his arms in his cast, and it has to be elevated so that his hand won't blow up like a balloon. Somehow, in the middle of all this tragedy going on, all that David wants to do is find out about all the people that are working with him. And he finally came up with the information that I was learning to play the banjo. And from that day forward, I could not go to a visit with him without him requesting that I play banjo for him. Now, I talked to the nurses, and I found out that this gentleman had an impressive CD collection of world-class master banjo musicians, and why he would want to hear me it was ludicrous, really. And didn't I have more important things I needed to do for him? And in his Parkinsonian whisper, he would, "Did you bring your banjo today?" Or, "When are you going to play banjo for me?" You know, now David's injury to his spinal cord was a crushing. It was not completely severed. So there's this hope, this glimmer that maybe as the inflammation goes out, the healing begins, maybe there could be some restoration of, maybe a hand would move, who knows. And one day that hope was renewed when he finally moved his fingers, and we were so excited. But as the days wore on, it became clear that that was not going to be the trend, that his illness, his injuries, his complications were going to take him from us. My job as a physician was quickly becoming less and less important to this person's life as we danced this way and that way and kept coming back that this is the best we can do. So that invitation of his to play banjo for him suddenly started looking pretty attractive. This might be something that's effective, more than what I was doing. So one day, much to my surprise, as much as everybody else, I walked into the facility with banjo in its case and put it in the corner. And my heart chided me, "You are going to play banjo for him today, aren't you?" And my mind, yes, I need to get all my work done. And if the office doesn't call me in early, well, amazingly, the work got done before noon. The office didn't call me. I'm opening the case, checking the tuning, putting the strap over my head. I'm walking down the hall in the nursing home. I'm taking the corner back to the dining hall. And I'm in the door of the dining hall, about to do my first public banjo performance. Ever. For my family, yes, okay. But so I see David and his wife over by the windows. I walk across the room. I sit down at the table. I strum, okay. Without a word, I start to play. And waltzes mostly, da-dee-da-da. They're slow enough you can keep up with it as a beginner. And old folk tunes, and things you learned in elementary school, right? And finally, I worked my way up to Red Wing. The only song I was even modestly up-tempo on. I was quickly running out of repertoire, so I began my last tune of the noon banjo hour we were having. And in the throes of David's rapt attention, I realized that I'd completely forgotten about all the rest of those residents in the dining hall. And they started humming a little bit and tapping their toes. And there was a little old lady in the corner who hadn't had a coherent conversation in 2 years. And she started to sing. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are bright. You'll never know how much I love you. I wanted to laugh out loud and break down crying all at the same time, and I still have to finish the song. I got a couple more rounds at least. Whose kindness is this, after all? Mine was an act of desperation to try finally, after all these months, to do something useful. Something, however fleeting, that would be better than it was. Dave's now, his kindness, was to gently, persistently, relentlessly even, pursue his goal to ignore my role as his physician and to call me out to play. Like a child to another child. "Hey, Billy, can you come out to play?" Like a human being to another human of the same kind. The kind that likes banjo music. So, was this the source of kindness? The ability to look at another being and see the same kind As the last notes of my song died away, in the stillness that was left, I found myself just giving over to the smile of that kindred spirit, and the kindling of my heart sparked and burst into flame and was roaring up, and I thought I'd be completely consumed, except there was this childlike welling up of joy filling my whole being. As I emerged from these memories, my mind said, well, shouldn't we say something to wrap this all up? And he looked around, and Hart was in a completely speechless catharsis over here, totally useless. And so mine's all right. Hey, good, this is going to be up to me. I can finish this up. And so he starts to look at the text, what he'd written down and everything, and here and there, and oh, wait a minute, again. And he was completely amazed to realize that in Hart's story, all those words that kind fits inside of had shown up. And baffled by this unexpected collaboration, he decided to reassure my heart very kindly. No, it's all here. You said it all. Don't need to say a thing. The end and all that sort of thing, you know. And my heart and my mind finally agreed with each other. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Drexel. All right. Let me adjust all my notes here, you know, very organized. Our next speaker is Ann Nicholson. She grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She has a degree in special education from Lock Haven University, and she's taught in Virginia, Utah, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. She lost her vision at the age of 30 and went to the Pittsburgh Blind and Vision Rehabilitation Center to adjust. They liked her there so much that she was hired as an instructor until she moved to Bethel with her husband, Tom Davis, in 2012. And frequently spoke for the United Way in Pittsburgh, and today she volunteers on the morning call for the Age-Friendly Community Initiative. Please welcome with me Ann Nicholson.
So I travel with that dog, and so people are really kind to me because she's so cute. So there are so many things that I thought of when I thought about kindness and all the different things that I could share. As a blind person traveling through life, people are so kind to me. Some people are not, but most people are. Most people are. So, you know, I came here today with no clue what I was going to say, and then Jane got up and spoke, and Drexel got up and spoke, and I said to Tom, shit, because I'm like, now what do I say? So, I'm just going to wing it and hope for the best. Once upon a time, I had a little fortune cookie thing that said, a little kindness plus a little craziness equals happiness. And I thought, yeah, I like that. And I stapled it right to the wall in one of my classrooms, and it lived there forever. It probably is still there, yellowed and wilted, but it's true. These are things that I believe in. A little kindness, a little craziness equals happiness. The other thing I think of is kindness is such a gift. And I think it's such a gift, and it must be a gift from God, because how else could it be so profound? So with that in mind, I want to take you through my life story really, really fast. And there's some things that I'm actually going to say that I've never said out loud to people before. But I never lived in Bethel before. So this is huge. As was said, I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I grew up in like the most normal, average American home with a brother and a sister and a mom and a dad, aunts and uncles around. I went to the most normal suburban schools and did all the suburban things. And when I turned 12, I became a type 1 diabetic. So people don't talk about type 1 diabetes very often because we talk about type 2 diabetes, and that's much more common. We hear about it on the news, and we hear about it on commercials, and blah, 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 blah. So I'm a type 1 diabetic, age 12. Back in the day, before there was much treatment, we've got pork insulin and tested urine at home at age 12. I'm a girl. So I did that and just rolled on with life. My parents were awesome because they just kept me believing that I was normal and that this is just the way life is going to be. I found that I had a neighbor across the street, a young man about my age, also type 1 diabetic, and a young lady who lived in the house behind me, also type 1 diabetic. Before I turned 20, they both died because type 1 diabetes kills. Not me, I'm still here. So I rolled on my life doing what I'm doing, thinking I can live my dreams. And my dream was always to be a teacher. Never ever wanted to do anything but be a teacher. You know, as a kid, like come home from school and I would teach my little sister, like everything that I learned during that day. And I was an awesome teacher because my sister has a PhD. I'm a really good teacher. So that's what I did. I devoted my life to teaching special education, and I did that proudly and happily, as Justin said, in lots of different places, lots of different things, and did what most people do. Ups and downs, ebbs and flows, this and that. I was a child bride, so I was divorced before I was 25. You know, yeah, that was good. Yeah, this wasn't so good. This is good, not so good. So after I did teach in Virginia, Maryland, and Utah, I had the opportunity to come home to Pittsburgh. I worked for the University of Pittsburgh teaching teachers how to work with difficult kids in the classroom. And I did this for a while and started having problems with my vision. Many diabetics lose vision slowly over years. Mine was gone in 6 months. I had 5 surgeries, hundreds of laser treatments, everything that the world could do. I lived in Pittsburgh, the medical mecca of the world. So they did everything, but there was nothing that could be done. So I, at age 30, I'm totally blind, a type 1 diabetic, divorced, married at home, living with my parents like a wonderful. Now what? And, you know, if you had asked me then, can we talk about kindness? I would have said, no. Kindness, I got nothing. But at the time, I have an uncle who is cognitively impaired. My grandparents had died, and our family didn't know what to do with my uncle. Nobody was really in a position to take care of him, so they decided they were going to find somebody who can care for him in the home. My dad and I would put together a little thing, put it in the paper, and the very first person who applied came to our home for an interview. So along comes this guy, and he sits down, and, interview, you're supposed to ask questions, they're supposed to answer. Well, I was in the interview, so there was a lot of listening, because I was doing a lot of talking. I knew all about my uncle and special ed and what his needs were, and could you do this, can you do that, can you do this, can you do that. At the time, I had about that much vision left, that much. So I look across the room, and I see something that will never leave me. The sparkling blue eyes, the crinkle in Carly's eyes, and the most beautiful smile you could ever imagine. And that was a gift from God. At that moment, I saw that, and I remember that to this day. And that's my husband. So, we hired him. Good way to find a husband. Hire him first, and then got him in. So for 2 years, Tom and I are great friends. We are great friends, and we take care of my uncle, and we do things, and we go places and do stuff. And then he asks me on a date, and I'm like, oh, okay. So we went out, and we started dating, and it was really awesome, and it was kind of scary, and I was blind, and I didn't know how to live as a blind person, and I didn't know what to do, and I put my hand out, and every time I did, he took my hand, and every day I put my hand out, and he takes my hand. So he asked me to marry him, and I said no. So I said, I'm not ready yet because, I need to learn to live as a blind person. How do I dress myself? What about my makeup? I don't know. Literally, at this time, I was still learning to be a blind person, and I had done this very fine thing. I was getting ready for an appointment, and I was to put my makeup on. So I put this stuff under my eyes to cover up the dark circles that I know are there. All you women know this. I go, I'm sniffing, I'm like, wait a minute. This is not cover up under my eyes. It is the reddest red lipstick you've ever seen. So I wash my face. After my appointment, I go, Tom asked me to marry him again. And I said, no. Are you crazy? I still had a lot to learn. That's when I went to Pittsburgh Vision Services and learned to be a really good blind person. And I did. I learned how to be a good blind person. I dress myself, I do my own hair and makeup and all that kind of stuff. I also learned to cook and to clean and to use a computer and to use a cane and then ultimately a dog. And like I said, traveling with the dog definitely brings forth kindness. So, Tom and I finally did get married because we took a train to Maine, and we were on that train, and I looked at him and said, I'm ready to marry you now. And he said, oh, okay. So, just a few months later, we did get married. That was 19 years ago. We are still married, and I can put in the happily married for sure. I hope he would. But since we married 19 years ago, diabetes is still kicking my ass. I'm stage 3 and 4, stage 3, 4 kidney disease. I can't feel my feet. I can't digest my food. I had to live with a pump. And I'm still here. So, when I think about that little thing from the fortune cookie, a little kindness and a little craziness equals happiness. The kindness comes from Tom every day. The crazy comes from me. And the happiness comes from you. Bethel is my home. You are my family. And I am profoundly happy because of being here and all of your kindness. So thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for not making me go first. Oh yeah, I have this microphone.
All right. Yeah, how about these stories so far, huh, folks? So our next speaker, if you've ever been on Main Street in Bethel, you have seen her shop. Melody and Garrett have a little pottery shop on Main Street, Bonema Pottery. She went to art school, and after they got married, moved up here in 1974. Things have been slowing down at the shop, but they are still trucking along. Ceramics or spun pottery? Pottery, all right. So, without further ado, please welcome Melody Bonham.
Hello. It worked. Well, 10 years ago, I was in a very, very bad accident. And I was in with it, my aunt and my father. And it was only like 5 minutes from the home I grew up in. But we had been up to the Poconos. This was in Pennsylvania. We were up to the Poconos trying to get my uncle's estate figured out. And just so close, my father turned in, and it was one of those things they call a T-bone, and I was at the top, right there. And I don't really remember anything. I don't even remember. Occasionally I get the feeling that I can see a white car going by. But I didn't remember anything until I woke up almost a month later. And I was really well taken care of, if you want to think about kindness. There was my husband and my daughter watching me to be sure that nothing would happen, and in case I woke up. But one of the things that did happen, I got a little bit awake, but the doctors wanted me to be able to put my thumb up and say, I forget what they wanted me to say, but they wanted me to really do something. So it took a while for us to get to that. And this was in Pennsylvania, and I had an amazing number of people come to see me because I grew up there. And my name is D'Alessandro, and there are a lot of D'Alessandro. So they came, and then there were even people who came from Bethel, which is a long ride, but I have some very good friends. When you think about kindness and my ministry, I couldn't be. I had the tubes that went down to my stomach, and I couldn't eat. And she said that she wouldn't have any chocolate until I had chocolate, which was really a big sacrifice, as far as I was concerned anyway. So, the people there were extremely kind. And sometimes they did things that really scared me. the person who helped me with my PT first, I was on the edge of the bed, and she was about this big. And she said, "Oh, I'll catch you, I'll catch you." I didn't fall, put it that way. But it was really, and I had this person that we wound up calling the food Nazi, who did not want me to do anything until I could really swallow on a video. And I would get so dry that I would want to have ice, just to rub on my lips. And one time I asked Garrett to brush my teeth 10 times, because when you brush your teeth, it makes your mouth feel so much better. But the food Nazi said, sometimes when people brush their teeth, they swallow. I didn't do that. Anyway, I had really wonderful care. And it was very unusual, because the first night they said I only had a 25% chance to live through the night. And my daughter and her boyfriend were there. You've seen those people walking back and forth in waiting rooms. They were doing it and also crying. And Garrett was up here, and so he got a friend, Nancy Milford, to ride down with him. And so at first he thought, when I got out of the car, nothing showed. And I was talking. So that was what Leah said to Garrett on the phone. And then I started, I think, I get things very mixed up. And around 2, I think, I started bleeding out. And they rushed me into the operating room, and that was one of the zillion operations I had. And what had happened was my head went into the windshield, and my seat belt sort of lacerated my liver. So, they had to find ways to get all that blood out. And they did this thing, which is so straightforward. They put a tube with a sponge on the end, and it just went into a jar. But it took a while to turn out to be pretty good. And they really did take very good care of me. And they were really kind. And they would tell me about their life, which was so good, because then I could think about their life and not my own. They were, I would say, they were very gracious to me too. So after a while, I could walk with a walker, sort of. But they decided I was ready for rehab. And Garrett and Leah looked around at a lot of different rehab places in Pennsylvania. But for some reason, it seemed like coming to New England rehab was better for everybody. I wanted to go home too, so that worked out. So the bad part was I had to ride in an ambulance for 9 hours. And ambulances are not made for comfort, for people. You're supposed to be rushing to the hospital. I was so uncomfortable. And I still had a lot of things wrong with me. But I got another friend who was willing to be in the ambulance with me and, try to distract me somewhat. But I made it, and I got to New England rehab. And the people there really, really helped me. And when I got there, I was kind of unable to do much. And when I left, I was able to, our house has stairs that are 8.5 inches high. I could walk up those stairs. Not great, but I could get upstairs and sleep in my own bed, which was something that was really important to me. And when I came home from rehab, there were people in the driveway waiting to welcome me home, which was a very nice thing. And I went into the house and there was this poster up and it said, "We love you." And, you know, I was really kind of overwhelmed in general because I didn't mention this, but I have brain damage. And so sorting things out isn't that easy for me. And here I am getting out of one kind of place in a car and then coming to my home, which feels very different at this stage. But I managed, and my friends around here, you know, they walk me in the school hallways, they listen to me go on and on, and one of the fun things was before I woke up, the people in my church all wore hats one day, and because I always wear a hat on Sunday, and this was sort of to participate in my life, and I have some great photographs of them. And some of those people look so good in hats, I don't know why. Okay. Well, then the really biggest thing, which I found to be very, very sweet, was that Joel, Clark, and Connie St. Pierre organized a bunch of musicians, and some of which wrote music just for the event. And they put on a thing called An Evening of Melody. And, you know, people paid to come to that, and then they wound up giving us the money. And, you know, I was very appreciative. And then also, Connie's partner made CDs, and so we sold some of the CDs that had all of the people who participated in the song. And one of the things that really touched my heart, when we first came to Bethel, there was a group of people who would get together and make music. And I didn't make any kind of music, but Garrett worked with a wash tub, I think, what it's called, you know, a wash tub and a board. But we sang a lot of fun songs, and it was real casual. Well, Donnie Catlin sang one of the songs that we'd sung then, and, you know, the old days really come back. And I hope I've conveyed to you how very sweet and kind and loving the people have been in this community toward me.
All right, thank you, Melody. So I know we've been sitting for a while. How's everybody feeling? Do we need to stand up and stretch? I mean, I've been getting up and walking around, so I don't know about you, but if you want to stand up and stretch,
I feel good.
Yeah. Thanks for the update. Our next storyteller I've met because she's a yoga teacher now. Her name is Wendy. She's been living in Bethel for about 24 years. She was in the Peace Corps in her younger days, so of course she's traveled all around the world. And this story is about, I believe, some time she spent in India. So if you could all help me welcome Wendy.
Hello there. So when I was, it's on. How's this? Yeah, great. It's good. So when I was approached about telling a story, I thought of all kinds of stories. they were all like a minute long. I have a ton of stories from where we live. Ray and I live out on the Flat Road, the Smith Farm Road, and if any of you know that area, we are in the windiest valley in the state of Maine. And so we have all kinds of stories about, I can't tell you how many times I have been rescued from the road we live on by incredibly kind neighbors. And so I thought about telling a winter story, but decided I would go with something a little more exotic. And share what I think of as kind of the perfect day of my life. I'm sure there have been several days that I've called perfect days, but this is my most recent perfect day. And this happened last June. My husband Ray and I and 6 other folks went to India, and we went to a place in the high Himalayas, around 15,000 feet, where another friend of mine has put together a cashmere goat craft center. And so it was this craft center was put together in order to help women make a living in a different way instead of breaking up rock. And that's what they were doing, is breaking up rock and making roads. So, and they all had these herds of cashmere goats. They were selling the cashmere for hardly anything. And the thought was, if folks could learn how to process cashmere, then you could sell it at a higher rate. So that's kind of the background of this story. And I went to I wanted to go to this place, and I was asked to teach knitting. And Ray came along, and he came along as a handyman. And we were lucky enough to go to this incredibly awesome place at the top of the world, about 15,000 feet. Spend 4 days there staying with just wonderful, wonderful people. And I'm doing the thing I love most, so I'm knitting. I'm not breathing well knitting, but I am knitting at 15,000 feet. There's hundreds of stories there to tell, but I'm coming to the day we left. And so on this day, we started the day by taking photos with the host family who had taken care of us, and it was this tearful goodbye. These folks had absolutely taken care of us 100%. We would not, I don't think we would have lived, certainly not comfortably. They were, without their help, they were giving us tea and food and just plying us with so much hydration. We get super dehydrated at high elevation. They had taken care of us like we were tiny children and done a beautiful job. So we said goodbye to them. Our guide and friend Stubkus loads us in his vehicle, and we start our journey to leave this place in the high Himalayas. And first we had to go up to 17,700 feet. And the road is one of the roads that you can only imagine from looking at National Geographic. It is this kind of road. And you are, well, first of all, let's remember, these folks are driving on the left side of the road. So, as the person in the passenger seat, I'm over on the right side, often looking straight down at the 1,000, 2,000 foot abyss that just drops off, looking at trucks that were down there that did not make it. And these roads are super tiny and narrow, and you come around a hairpin curve, and you have to say beep beep, and the other person beeps, and you sort of vie for who goes first. So we were wending our way down this road. It's a glorious day, brilliant blue sky. The mountains are covered in snow, and just like the crystalline pure kind of glorious day. And we make our way up over the 17,700 foot pass, go down, and decide we all need a pee stop. So we're like, we gotta get out. So we stop in this valley where it's giant boulders, and we think, well, we'll just duck behind and go pee. So we all scattered, did whatever, and then Stubby starts doing yoga. And so voila, I am now as happy as can be. We're doing yoga in this glorious place, all of us just doing whatever, playing around, there's water flowing. We had just seen yaks too, that was the other part of this day. We had, not something I see hardly ever on the road. So we do the yaks, we do yoga, we are in bliss, we get back in the car, we get back in the truck. we drive a few feet and Stucky says, hey, there's money on the road. So we get out and there's money all over the road. And so we pick up all these rupees and, pocket this money. And then we start looking for the wallet because we're sure we're going to really hit this big. But we gathered enough money for all of us to have lunch, which was great. So we continue down the road, and there's other astonishing things. We're looking at wild horses. There's an animal there called, it's a cross between a yak and a cow called a Sioux or something like that. So you're seeing these creatures that are mythological, and everything is glorious. And then all of a sudden ahead of us we see a line of men in military green and bright white turbans stopped in the middle of the road with machine guns. And the road is just like you can't go any further. And so all of a sudden this glorious day just kind of dwindles down to, oh shit, this is really happening. And here we were, all machine guns, guys, turbans, all of them, stern. And Stucky says, stay in the vehicle. I got this. Have your passports ready. So we're all a little amped up. And he is really amped up, so that makes us more amped up. And he gets out and talks to these folks. Comes back and he says, it's cool. It's a Sikh Karma stop. It's here it's a comfort stop for travelers. They want to offer you a meal. And we're like, oh, and they're like, no. And it was kind of like obligatory. They're offering you a meal and you're getting out now. I'm like, okay. So we get out and we go in this tent and there are these beautiful smiling men in all their military fatigues, all carrying weapons, all with semi-automatic weapons or automatic weapons, and this fabulous array of chana masala and rice with peas and what's the other thing, Ray, we were talking about?
Dal and halva.
Dal and halva, all of this homemade, incredible food. And so we all have some, and it's like the best food ever. It's just stunningly good. So we eat. There's other travelers there. We're all talking. It's like this party in the middle of the Himalayas, surrounded by men in machine guns who are all wearing turbans. So honestly, that is really the sort of the meat of the story, but although it was vegetarian. But we get back in our car and we continue on down this crazy road that's absolutely and utterly terrifying to end it to actually have lunch, although none of us are really very hungry, but we ended several hours later at this beautiful monastery, this monastery, that we had a beautiful lunch, and we're able to just kind of sit back and say, wow, life was good. This is really what a special day. So anyway, thank you.
Your pants falling off?
All right. So our next storyteller was not on the original cast. We were in the lobby, kind of munching down on potluck. She goes, so who do I talk to if I want to tell a story? It's me and Kat kind of standing there. We're like, well, I guess us. She goes, oh, good, yes, I have a story. We're like, well, we were planning, we kind of go through, well, we were planning on like just having planned storytellers. But I guess if you really want, she's like, well, I promise that I can keep it to 5 minutes. So we'll see how she does. You can please help me welcome Karen Swanson.
So much easier for me to be spontaneous than to be planned. Wow, so many beautiful stories. I feel like I've walked in all of the storyteller's shoes for a little bit. 5 minutes. I'm really delighted because the young woman at the heart of this story is here. And I realized that one of the things that I love about this story is it really reminds me how quickly and simply we can show kindness and make a difference in somebody's, truly I want to say, in somebody's life. So I was in a very strange state in my being. I was tired all the time. I was very foggy-brained. I was having a lot of difficulty focusing. I felt rather melancholy. And it was summer, and I love summer. So I went over to our beloved Cafe de Coco to get something wonderful to eat. And I was trying to put on a good front, but the lovely young woman who was waiting on me could tell that I wasn't all there. So we finished, our sort of chit-chat and my purchase. And then she said, wait a minute. And she walked out and around from behind the counter. And could you stand up for a moment? And she did this. And yes, she held it for quite a while. And she also told me a story about the woman who taught her to hug. And you might want to sort of experiment with noticing this. Most of us, when we go to hug, we go to the left to hug, which turns our hearts away from one another. So when we go to the right, instead, our hearts are much more aligned. And you linger. Now, I've since read and heard in several sources that when we hold a hug for at least 20 seconds, it lowers the cortisol in our brain, the stress hormone, and it kicks up
Endorphins.
Yes, thank you. I also have a dear friend who happens to be French, and I love the practice of, I think it's called le bise, of kissing on both sides. So I have kind of expanded on this hug. And since people usually, you go in too fast, so the hug is already happening on the wrong side. So I say, up, wait a minute, I don't let anybody get away, for the most part, unless they seem really uncomfortable, and I do the other side. And if they're kind of antsy and they want to cut it short, I kind of just breathe more deeply, and eventually they start breathing more deeply. Thank you, Maddie Rose.
I was not expecting to be a part of that story.
You did well.
Nice work.
All right, well, that concludes almost all of our storytellers for this evening, save for one. We wanted to save a little space for Kat Ingraham to come up, and I don't know, we're definitely running a little over time, so I don't know if she's going to decide to tell the story or not, but certainly is going to talk a little more about Mahusik Heart and Soul and what they do, and thank some people. So here's Kat Ingraham.
Tonight, and thank you for our storytellers. The original idea was to have this be more of a group discussion, to allow other people to share, if they wanted to, their own experiences with kindness in this community. Since we're running a little overtime, what we've decided to do is take a list. If there are people here in the audience, we can do this again. We can talk about kindness. We can talk about how people enjoy living in a small town. Sarah Southam actually took the time to type up her experience for me and sent it to me and asked me if I would read it. It's about her students at Telstar High School, and I can read that to you if you would like me to, but I do also have her permission to print it in the newspaper next week, so you guys can read it there. It's a shameless plug for the Citizen. But it's up to you, so if you want to hear it, I will do my best to give it the most authentic voice that I can, even though it's not my story to tell. So, do people want to hear that?
Yeah.
So this isn't the first person from Sarah Southam. She's a teacher at Telstar. And here we go. So, I make cupcakes or cookies for my advisees at school when it's their birthdays. And sometimes I bring in treats just because. It is kind of a scary undertaking because I'm 5'1", and most of my advisees are senior boys who are close to 6 feet tall and are hungry. All the time. I hold out the container and then cower as they swarm in to grab a cupcake. The treats are gone in a second, and they are on to whatever else is occupying their thoughts at that moment. A text message or a Snapchat. We sing happy birthday, and then I have to attempt to get them organized and productive for the enrichment period. A couple weeks ago, Jarrett came swooping into the room and went straight to the birthday list, checked it, and then complained loudly to me that we needed a birthday soon, so that I would have to bake something, and they'd have something good to eat, because he was starving. I thought for a moment, and then said, well, actually, Jared, it's my birthday next week. His response was immediate. Mrs. Southam, we don't bake. You're the one who makes the cakes. And it ended there. A few days later, Jarrett came and stood by me and asked very quietly and humbly, Mrs. Southam, would you mind telling me what day is your birthday and what year you were born? Everyone's watching me at this point. It's next Wednesday, Jared. But I'm not sure I really want to tell you what year I was born. He proceeded to then guess the year until he got it right. Luckily, he started with me being younger than I am. This was the first act of kindness. Despite this nice tactic of not asking me directly how old I was, I could tell in his mind he was thinking, holy crap, that's a lot of candles to put on a cake. My birthday arrived, and a few of the kids said happy birthday. The morning proceeded as usual, and then satellite period arrived. My advisees seemed to be running late. Only a couple of kids were in the room.
Into the camera.
I was helping another student finish a project and wondering where they were. Then through the door they all came, carrying a cake with candles and singing happy birthday. They had cookies and apples and a card for me, and I was smiling from head to toe. I was going to cut the cake, and then something really special happened. Sarah, one of my advisees, said, hey guys, wait, I think we just did the nicest thing that we have ever done in high school. The expression on her face was one of joy. We all laughed loudly with her, but inside I was really overwhelmed. She had come to a realization at that moment that being kind to someone else brings great satisfaction. Being kind is not always the easiest path to take. It can take time, effort, and coordination to carry out acts of kindness. Teenagers can be self-centered 95% of the time, but when you capture those moments where they step outside of themselves and see others around them who care for them, and then reciprocate that care, it is a special moment. Because then you know that they have grown and matured and will be wonderful adults in our community. The kids in our community need to be loved and cared for. It is not always easy to love teenagers, but if you can take an extra moment to talk to a teenager working at the IGA, or in a daycare, or at a local restaurant, they will learn kindness from you. Ask them how their school day was, or find out what's important to them. We are living in tough times. Adults are working long hours, and there is the distraction of phone and computers. The personal interactions are still crucial, and the kids will learn that from us. Kindness can take extra work, but I saw firsthand last week that kids want to be kind and are damn proud of themselves when they are. So in the words of Sarah Southam, I hope that we can all appreciate the stories and the kind folks who live in this community and go forth from this evening on carrying that kindness forward to our neighbors, to our family, and to our friends around us. And thank you all for joining us this evening. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. That's a wrap. Yeah.
How do I stop this thing?